to learn and to keep learning disability is at this point of the presentation, think about some of the clients that you're about to meet either this week, next week, or the following week, and where you're participating today, because you know this is an opportunity that maybe you can absolutely grow your business with. So what are we going to talk about this morning? We are going to talk about understanding and positioning business solutions. So for anyone out there that has business owner clients, self-employed individuals, whether they're incorporated or not incorporated, pay attention. I am hoping I can give you at least 1 to 3 ideas that are tactical for you that you can take out and actually have a discussion with in your next meeting with your business owners. So when we think about these clients, when we think about this individual, what do they really want and what do they need? Couple of things. Number one, their biggest investment is probably going to be their business from an income generating perspective. So they want to make sure there's protection for that investment. And through it all, if they have a successful business or if they're growing that business, they are going to have a reputation for being able to grow their clientele. That usually means as they become more successful, their ego is gonna grow. So you're gonna have to know a little bit about that for many business owners. And really, with that growth in success, so is their lifestyle. So they're really looking to protect a whole lot of things, starting from their business all the way to their lifestyle, and really, as they continue to grow that business, they want to make sure it's successful. And if it's successful and it's growing, there's going to be even more protection opportunity. But more than that, the longer that they grow that business and succeed in that business, they are absolutely going to want control. Control to make sure that that continued success keeps going for them, for their family, and possibly for the next generation. So here's a couple of things around opening that conversation. As I've always said in all of our DI schools, all of this scripting isn't this magical Manulife came up with it. It really comes from all of our advisors that are in this market who successfully place and add to disability insurance business for their business owners. And really, here's what they say to their clients. It was tough to build the business once. Let's not have to do it twice. Every business owner is going to agree with that. Simply asking them, when was the last time you took a vacation of 2 weeks or longer? Think about this pandemic. Did any of your business owners take a vacation of 2 weeks? What happens if you aren't able to show up at work? And how long before you feel the impact of your own absence at work? And really, here's another one. Depending on what the scenario is for the business, you can use anything. What happens if, right? What happens if your main employee goes away for a month? What happens if you had to take that unexpected time away? But lastly, and I think this is really powerful, is what if we do nothing, right? What if we do nothing? So really getting them to that next stage and setting them up to say, you know what? This line of questioning makes a lot of sense. I've never really thought about it before. And really, nobody else is going to bring this to light for them without you. Because when they go get a business loan, when they go anywhere, really the banks, the credit unions have a track, right? But these are really thoughtful questions where you can help them engage with a conversation. So now when we're thinking about, what are some of the risks to their business relationships if they were away, if they had to take that time off for a while? So number one, their employees are absolutely counting on them. How's that going to impact how their employees are feeling? What about that reputation that they built over the years? How are their clients and their customers feeling? Think about every business you go to and why you go back. It's probably because you have a relationship with the owner, the environment, or the employees. What about the creditors and the suppliers? The more it is that the business owner is the main driver of the business, all these other people that support that business are really counting on them to keep things going, to keep things successful. So really, these are all the relationships that are affected, and it's not just the one person. So maybe just enlightening your business owner with this, that, making sure that we have that protection for you means we have that protection for all these other people and relationships that you have that have supported your business and continue to support it. If nothing happens, if there's no protection, and they're not willing to take a look at what the options are, there is an absolute risk of bankruptcy. In any of your careers, how many of you have had a situation? I know I get them. I get it a couple of times a month. Well, he was self-employed at one point and it's bankrupt. It's back. It's better now. He was bankrupt for a while, but it's been over a year. Can we offer coverage? That's not the best time to be offering coverage, right? You want your business owner covered before this happens. There's that potential of an overnight loss of a lifetime of work. That loss of independence and loss of choice now that they've had to step away. And a lot of times that stepping away is not by choice, right? It happens to them. And really, if there's a decline and they are never able to have that protection or come back to the business in the same way, it really is going to jeopardize that dream of a family legacy. But most of all, for many of our business owners, if they don't have the protection, it's a forced return to work when they're not well or ready. And I'm sure some of you on this call, there's over 400 of you on this call, probably have a story, a client, somebody that you know where this happened. An illness, a disability happened, and from that was the unfortunate decline of the business and possibly even the unfortunate aggravated decline in health. So here are all of the different things that might potentially happen. And I always say, I know there's a lot of things on this slide, but I always say pick one or two that you feel will resonate with your business owner to just get them to that next place of engagement. So we talked about the business, a little bit about the personal, but what about the impact to the family? Interesting. Take a look at this. Practically the same. Because the more that business becomes successful, we all know the lifestyle is being supported by that business. But really, it's that expanded, unfortunate impact if there are children. So everything else is the same for that business owner. Same impact to their family and to the next generation. Would they ever want that for the people that are dependent on them, especially their children? Absolutely not. So here are a couple of open-ended questions. If this is an early relationship with your client, or maybe it's not necessarily a new relationship, but you've just never asked the questions, pick a couple from here. Ask them, how is your business structured? What is the tempo of growth and development? Maybe you haven't asked that in a couple of years. And have you ever asked them what their biggest obstacles to success are? I think that's important because you could really help them out there with some of that financial protection. Who are the stakeholders? Has that changed? Who are their team members that are active in the business and possibly silent? And most of all, who is responsible for the expenses? Is it just your business owner, or are there other people now that share in those expenses? What is your client's 1-year plan for their business? What's their 5-year plan for their business? Listen to them, share that plan with you because it's probably going to be around growth. And then lastly, what could derail these plans? Really important. Because our business owners invest so much of their waking hours in their business, they are going to know exactly what is going to stop those plans from happening. And so there are a couple of options for our client to consider in a situation where they are not able to come back to the business, where they have to exit. First is, if they're the only shareholder, they can absolutely sell the company. If they're not the only shareholder, they can sell their shares. In a situation where they're absolutely going to wind down the business, they might be looking to sell the business equipment. If they're incorporated, they're going to they're going to think about, what can I liquidate? From the OpCo, from the operating company, or from the HoldCo. And really, the other component is they're probably going to take money out from retained earnings. I would say that's the first line if there's money there, if they don't have any protection. So here are what the different options are for them if they don't have any disability critical illness protection. So I have actually waited a while to show the first CE credit because it is one of our more popular questions. So I am actually going to give this 1 minute for all of you on the line to take a picture, take down everything in red, because this is the first half of the code. So I am going to actually give this a little bit of time. You're going to hear silence to give you a lot of time to take down this code, because I think by now we're over 10 minutes into the presentation. All of you are here now. So please take down this code before I move on. And at the end of this portion is going to be the instructions at the very end of the presentation and how to put that code together. But if this is not your first DI school, I am assuming you know how to put that code together. So we are now going to move on into the rest of the presentation. I am going to assume you have all taken this code, the first half of your CE code now. All right, so first up is overhead protection. So business overhead protection, we call it expense comp here at Manulife, is going to probably be your most intuitive plan for business owners. So we're going to take a look at what it's all about. So why would you do it? We're going to get into a little bit of why, but really it's to take care of the business expenses. Who is it for? It really is for your business owners, not for your employees. And we're also going to talk a little bit about who not to talk to. So one of the things to know about expense comp or business overhead expense plan is we are not able to offer coverage for anyone that is in a B occupation class. Something to know, right? They have to be a minimum of A occupation class. Unfortunately, we are not able to offer it to anyone that is in retail sales. So your business owners that own a retail sales shop, they own a restaurant, they're a farm. Like people say to me, why not a farm owner? Just everybody on this line, imagine how big a farm is, right? And what some of our maximums are, and home-based businesses. And we're really not able to offer to these individuals. And if you're asking why, it really, the point around the why is because the product, and the product not just with us, but it's for the whole industry, was really meant for smaller business owners, consistency in income and revenue. And when you take a look at some of these businesses, there's a higher risk for some of them not being as successful, higher risk in the ability to stay in that business. So for us to be able as an industry to offer this plan the way that it is, in the rates that it is, here are the categories that we're not able to offer the coverage to. So it's expense comp. So now we're going to talk a little bit about, who is your ideal client? So small business owners. And when we think about small business owners, one of the things that's actually not showing up here is we're really thinking of businesses where there's a maximum of five people in the business, including the business owner. So that tells you now a little bit about, what kind of businesses can I offer when I'm thinking about business overhead expense? Really smaller businesses, right? So maximum 5. We have the ability to reimburse expenses up to $40,000 a month. So your next clue is it's a reimbursement plan, right? They're going to have to show us their expenses before they get their benefit. It's not the same as a full income protection plan. So we have the ability to offer on a special quote basis up to $40,000 a month. On our software, we can offer up to $30,000 of monthly benefit. we have a built-in carryover provision that can be used. So what does that mean? Well, what happens if the actual expenses of your business owner actually exceed the amount of monthly benefit that they bought? If they continue to be disabled, we have that ability in the months where their expenses are actually maybe lower to carry over that extra benefit. So something to know is some very interesting built-in features that can be used to make sure that your business owner actually receives all of the benefit that they paid for during their benefit, the benefit period that we are paying out while they're disabled. So the waiting periods are two options: 30 and 90 days. So I'm just going to say this on the call. If this was a live session, I would say, what do you think over 90% of our business owners buy? Is it 30 days or 90 days? And if you've been in the business, you are going to know 30 days. Why 30 days? Why not 90 like our income protection plans? Why 30? Very simple. Business owners understand whether they're sick, whether they're at work or not at work, the bills are never going to are not going to stop, right? Their lease, their rent, their employees are going to have to get paid. So after 30 days, that money has to show up. And then benefit period: 12, 18, and 24 months. Three choices. Some of you are going, just 12, 18, and 24 months? Well, yeah, because think about your business owners. If they're not able to come back after a year, they're probably thinking about what the next step is. Remember those options I talked about earlier? Are they going to sell the company? Are they already taking money out of retained earnings? Do they actually have a succession plan? So really, when you think about that 24-month mark, they are absolutely going to know if they have a business to come back to and if they've been able to survive it, if they've been gone for more than a year. So business owners, interestingly, are quite intuitive with this one. They're going to know right away. I'm going to know in 12 months based on the nature of my business if I can't show up at work for 12 months, whether or not I'm going to be able to do it and go on because I recovered, or if I have to sell it. So the other couple of features to discuss is for our 3A, 4A occupation class business owners, the own occupation definition is actually built in. So if you're a little bit new to our expense comp business overhead expense and you happen to be familiar with another company, because I'm sure some of you are on the line, I can tell immediately when I get a question, oh, where's your own occupation rider, Judy, for your business overhead expense plan? I'll be like, oh, you were selling our competition. Ours is actually built in. So it's built into the plan. Okay. So maybe there's a reason for you to maybe take a look at us for your next business expense case. We also have residual disability coverage as an optional rider for our 4A and 3A occupation class business owners. So just a little bit of a heads up, the residual disability benefit works differently on our business overhead expense plan. It's not the same as on our income protection plans of Venture ProGuard. If you've never seen it before, very simply, your business owner, to be able to qualify for this benefit, has to have more expenses than they do income from that business while they're disabled. That's the way that they're going to be able to get a partial benefit. Okay. And we do an actual example on every illustration when you quote this residual disability rider. There's so many of you on the call. I want to say, please don't quote it now while you're doing the DI school. I hope you're smiling. Waiver of premium, obviously, is built into our business overhead expense when they go on claim. And then there are three other riders that we have available. The first is the additional insurance rider. Think of that, if some of you are familiar with disability, as the FIO or the GIO is what other companies call it. We have that available. So I would highly encourage that, especially if you're putting protection on a business where it's in the growth phase. The patient protection rider, very important for our medical professionals who are involved in invasive medical procedures, or like think about your dentist, you need to put that on. That's really important, because if they can't practice because they have been exposed, then you actually have that rider on, so the benefit will pay out to cover their expenses until they recover or they are no longer going to be a risk to their patients. And then the third rider, for any business owner that likes the idea of actually receiving money back every 8 years, we have the premium refund rider. Yes, it exists on this plan as well. And we have some of our business owners that really, really like that premium refund rider, because they think of it as having the ability, if in that 8 years they don't claim, of receiving that money back and recycling it back into their business. So those are the three other riders for our expense comp business overhead expense plan. So when you're thinking about this plan, it is actually a very affordable plan for our business owners. So here is a business owner. He's 40. He doesn't smoke. His waiting period is 30 days, right? Bills come every 30 days. And we did the maximum benefit period for him, because he's like, no, I'd like the maximum because I'd like to take some time to really decide what the next step is if I can't come back to work. It's 24 months was his benefit period, and this one was no riders. So just total base coverage. And take a look at $3,000 of benefit, $5,000 of benefit. Look at how affordable that can be. You know, somebody that's a 2A, so not our highest occupation class, $3,000 a monthly benefit. Maybe that is their rent or a combination of their rent and one key employee, $78 a month. Right? So taking a look at some of these risks, and obviously the better the risk, like look at our 4A at $3,000 a month, it's $45 or $46 a month. And then 5,000 for 4A is, you know, under $100, $76 a month, very reasonable. So taking a look at some of these premiums, I am hoping you're getting some ideas around, you know what? Asking your business owner, what is your biggest monthly expense? What keeps you up at night? If you weren't able to come back to work because you needed time away to recover, what's that biggest expense where if you were going to pick one, you're thinking, I'd like coverage for that. And sometimes starting the conversation from there really gets them going on, yeah, this is probably a good idea. Because if you don't know what their financials look like and what's going on with their retained earnings, if they happen to be incorporated, most business owners really park that money there because they want to put it back into their business. They're not thinking it's going to be funding expenses for an unexpected time where they might be ill or have a disability and now need that time away to recover. Okay? So now we're going to get into what's actually covered. What are some of those eligible expenses? Where here's a sample, right? Utilities. That's a big one. As you know, there's a reason they're not working from home. There's a reason they're succeeding. They're out, right? They have their own space for their business. So with that space, they need electricity, they need heat, they need water. That's covered. Another big one is their rent or lease payment. So depending on where they're located, how big that facility is, it is highly likely over the years, especially if they're not a new business owner, they have seen an increase in that rent or lease. So maybe even just starting there might be one of the more significant costs of their business. That is covered. Your business owner is actually already paying for insurance premiums for their property and, you know, possibly their personal liability coverage. Like, it to them is absolutely logical. This makes sense. I gotta have this, right? So if they gotta have that, guess what? This business overhead expense plan actually reimburses the premiums they're paying for that property and personal liability coverage. I think that's very cool, right? Now you have insurance. It's going to reimburse you for the other insurance that you need to keep going. Professional membership fees, if your business owner is a professional, that's covered. And then salaries of their true employees. So when I say true employees, that employee cannot be in the insured's profession. So I'm going to use a very simple example. So what does that mean? I have a dentist, they have business overhead expense, and in their clinic, in their practice, they have a dental hygienist. So if my dentist has to be away for a period of time and they qualify and now they are covered with this business overhead expense plan, the salary of the hygienist is covered because a hygienist cannot be a dentist, right? But there are some dental practices where they have an associate dentist who is actually also another dentist. That individual's salary can't be covered, but the hygienist can. So that's an example of the difference in profession. So when I talked about the covered overhead expenses earlier, that was just a sample. Inside of our illustration, we actually have a questionnaire. You can pull it up, you can print it out in PDF. A number of advisors who do business with us, especially if it's in the early stages of a relationship, usually will send this to a client if they're already engaged in a discussion around coverage and determining coverage amounts. And I always encourage advisors to say, yeah, go through this with your client, right? Or send it to them because this is going to give them an idea for how valuable this protection can be and how much reimbursement they can get back if they have these expenses existing already in the business. Because I always say, then it makes even more sense to have the coverage when they see all of these expenses listed out. And what you don't actually see on this slide is when you actually send them that questionnaire, at the bottom, there's actually a commentary that talks about, the fact that it doesn't cover, individuals in their own profession. So, that's actually covered in there as well. So here are a couple of things that aren't eligible expenses, because every now and then when you're having that discussion, you're going to have maybe your client go, oh yeah, one of my biggest expenses is, supplies, additions to my inventory. Unfortunately, that is an ineligible expense, right? So must be qualifying expenses. And here are the examples of ineligible expenses. So additions to inventory, supplies, expenses for which the insured was not liable prior to their disability. So it was actually an expense that they didn't have before, and now that they're disabled, it's an additional expense. Yeah, that's not going to qualify. Expenses that are already insured by a similar policy, right? So is this covered under a different policy? That's, then it's not going to be covered. Salaries for members of the insured's profession, we already talked about that. But here is a very common question we always get. What about a locum? What is a locum? Right? So a locum is a physician where if a physician has to be away, that person comes in and will actually take care of the patients or practice of that physician that's away. That's called a locum. So that locum actually has to get paid, right? So we always get asked, oh, is this plan going to cover a locum, right? What we might need to pay this locum if I'm away? And the answer is no, that's an ineligible expense because that's technically somebody in the same profession. That's another physician coming in to take care of your patients. So these are the ineligible expenses. And when you're looking at these ineligible expenses, just know for business overhead expense, we call it expense comp at Manulife. This is consistent across the industry. We're all in the same place around qualifying expenses and ineligible expenses. So now we're going to talk about that carryover provision. So here's an example of how it works. So remember, this is a built-in benefit. So some of you might have actually sold expense comp and have forgotten about this. So this is a built-in benefit. So monthly benefit is $5,000. Expenses of your business owner. So let's say they qualify for claim. Their expenses during the first 6 months is $6,000, right? So $6,000 of expenses is what is qualified for, but they only have a $5,000 benefit amount. So now what happens in the next 6 months? So the next 6 months, their expenses are actually lower. It's $4,000 a month, no longer six. But the benefit paid each month would still be $5,000 for these 12 months. The one thing that's not going to change in the first 6 months is we're only going to be able to pay five, even if they qualify for six. And then in the next 6 months, their qualifying expenses are $4,000 only, but we're going to be able to pay five because it's called a carryover expense. We were able to carry over that additional expense from the first 6 months. So the other built-in feature is the extended monthly benefit that you're seeing now. So we're going to use the same example. Monthly benefit is $5,000. The benefit period is 12 months, right? So when you think about what is the amount of benefit available for that 12-month period, it's 5,000 times 12 equals 60,000, right? That's, as long as your client continues to be disabled for those 12 months, it's 60,000. But then what happens is during this whole period, their qualifying expenses that they submitted was only $4,000 a month. So $4,000 a month times 12, that's only 48,000. But they've been paying for a policy where in 12 months, we should have paid them 60,000. So now what happens? Because our benefit period's done. 12 months has come up. So the answer is, as long as they continue to be disabled, we will extend that benefit period for another 3 months, right? So we are going to say, you know what? Your 12 months benefit period is up, but we're going to extend it another 3 months till you get that extra amount that we weren't going to pay you because your qualifying expenses were only 4,000. So in that 15 months, we would have now paid out a total of $60,000 of benefit, which is what your client paid. So this, by the way, is applicable during total or residual disability. This extended monthly benefit as well as the carryover provision. So 2 features I'm hoping that have enlightened some of you on the call, because these are both built-in benefit features. So we're really making sure on the insurance company side, your client bought a policy, it's a reimbursement plan, we are going to pay them the benefit amount for their benefit period that they bought for this plan, okay? So a couple of other built-in features. So just think of it as built-in. This doesn't cost your client extra, right? And this is on our illustration, it's on our sample policy contract, this disposal of interest in the business. So if your business owner is now at a stage where they have decided they're not going to be able to go back to this business, whether it's a personal decision because of their condition or their health, or because maybe they've decided, wow, this significantly impacted my business, my disabilities, I am choosing to maybe not go back to it and make a change and decide to do other things. Maybe not own a business, maybe decide to be an employee. Here's what you need to know. As long as they've been collecting for at least 3 consecutive months, if they're putting plans in place to sell that business, and while they're putting those plans in place, they are getting things done to be able to dispose of that interest in the business. Maybe they're getting a valuation done by an accounting firm. Maybe they need to draw up, some kind of agreement. Know that some of those costs are actually going to be reimbursable. And the amount that we can reimburse, so let's just pick a valuation for the business with an accounting firm. There is absolutely going to be a cost to that. And depending on how complicated the business is, that cost might not be insignificant, right? We can reimburse the cost of that valuation, the lower of 20,000 or 2 times the monthly benefit for that cost and any other cost in relation to the disposal of interest in that business. So something to know that is again built in. And you know what? This is another feature where a lot of owners kind of go, oh, yeah, that's actually interesting to me because of the nature of my business. I like that that's there. That really I'm paying for, let's call it that $60,000 of total benefit, 5,000 times 12, right? But on that particular plan, that $5,000 benefit amount 2 times that. So $10,000, they can have up to $10,000 of extra benefit as long as that expense is related to the disposal of their business. Okay. So now, when we think about those optional benefits, the additional insurance riders. So I talked a little bit earlier about, if they're in the growth stage of their business or they're still continuing to grow that business even significantly more, I always suggest put this on because here is a way to grow that benefit with them as their business expenses grow. Patient protection rider for your health professional. So something I wanted to mention about this is make sure you put this on for your health professionals because especially if you're maybe a little bit familiar with some of their association plans, this is on there. So you want to make sure you put this on their business overhead expense plan with us. And then the premium refund rider. What is that formula? The formula is a 50% refund of premiums paid within that 8-year cycle. So 8 years of no claims or very little claims. And again, business owners that like the idea of getting their money back, you have that premium refund rider. So let's take a look at a case study. So here is our business owner. He's thinking, really, I need about $7,000 a month to stay afloat. Okay. So he has a couple of options. $7,000 a month, $30-day waiting period, to age 65. What is this? So you're probably thinking, wait, what is she talking about? So a lot of times our business owners are thinking, well, you know what? I need $7,000 a month to stay afloat. They're thinking, income protection coverage, right? So maybe this is personal and business, income and expenses. They're not thinking there's a whole separate plan for business overhead expense. So sometimes you're going to have clients who say, no, I only want a 30-day elimination or waiting period because they're thinking their business and their lifestyle are one and are going to be covered by one plan. Well, take a look at this. $7,000, 30-day waiting period to age 65 benefit period is $394 a month. And your business owner is probably going to get sticker shock with that. So he's thinking, okay, let's look at 60-day waiting period. Okay, $274 a month. 90-day waiting period, $191 a month. But that's a 90-day waiting period. The question is going to be, does this make sense? Is this the true need? Does he need $7,000 for both? Or is he really thinking my biggest expenses are really going to be in my business, but he's thinking, or maybe he's not communicating it that way, he's thinking that the only plan available is that income protection solution you were talking to him about. And the rates, by the way, for this were for a 3A individual, right? So somebody that is doing consultant work. And this was man, 40, he doesn't smoke. Well, break it down for him. When he says, I need $7,000 a month to stay afloat, simply ask, is that for your personal lifestyle need, or is it for your business expenses, or is it for both? And a lot of times they'll come back and say, well, actually, it's for both. Ask them for the breakdown. And in this situation, it was $2,500 a month for their personal lifestyle need and $4,500 for their expenses, right? So now all of a sudden the numbers can change, right? So let's take a look at the lifestyle need for their personal lifestyle. $2,500 a month, 30-day waiting period to age 65 is $145 a month. But really on the income protection side, It is a long-term disability plan. So think 90-day elimination period. If you've been to my DI schools in the past, that's where really the statistics are, right? Somebody can't come back to work or come back to their business in 90 days. They're probably going to be away for 2 to 3 years. So really 90-day waiting period, the age 65 benefit period, $2,500 a monthly benefit, all of a sudden, very affordable, $72.63 a month. So that takes care of his lifestyle need, right? And that is at the age 65 benefit period. So now let's take a look at the business. So for the business, $4,500 a monthly benefit, 30-day waiting period, which is what we want because the bills come every 30 days. And he's like, well, I want a 24-month benefit period because I'd really like to take my time to see if I'll recover before I sell this business because it's a good business and I want to be strategic. Guess what? It's only $98.72 a month, right? Quite affordable. If they take out that $4,500 benefit period on the business overhead expense to a 90-day elimination period, if they decide, you know what, I have enough money, I put money back into my business, I actually thought about some of this for my business expenses in case of an unexpected situation for health where I'll be away. Well, if they take it out the 90-day waiting period for the business, it's only $49.30 a month. I will say, everybody, though, please try and do the 30-day waiting period for the business overhead expense and make sure your client is the one who articulates to you that they want a 90-day and preferably have them put that in writing, okay? Because they might forget at the time of claim that they chose a longer period. So again, male, non-smoker, doesn't smoke, 43A occupation class. So a few primary questions. Ask your business owner or client to ask themselves these questions. If I become disabled, is the revenue going to cease or diminish significantly while expenses continue? Powerful question. Second question, is there anyone else in the business who can generate this income? Two questions, two powerful questions. Think about your current clients and think about your clients where you've come to them year after year, maybe 2-3 times a year to do planning with them. And think about the ones who are self-employed, where you know when you show up at their office or at their business, they are the main driver, right? You know the reason this person is successful and that they have the clients that they have is really because of them and not because of anyone else. Those are the first people you want to have this discussion with and ask these questions of and find out if they have any business overhead. Maybe they just didn't talk to you about it, and or find out, has anyone ever discussed it with them? Because those would be your ideal clients. And couple of more questions to get them thinking about, it's probably a good idea to engage in some of this coverage. Asking, if you weren't working, who was going to pay these overhead costs? And ultimately, if you're putting all of the money back into your business, asking them, do you want them to come out of your family's pocket? Because we all know for business owners, lifestyle is usually supported by their successful business. And without a plan, that's also going to come out of their lifestyle. So it could come out of their savings if they don't have enough financial protection on their business. Then if you become disabled, second question, will that revenue cease or diminish significantly while your expenses continue? Ask that earlier as well. If you weren't working, who is going to pay for those costs? And shall we look at protection to ensure your business survives your disability too? This last one is one of my favorite ones. So now when we're thinking about, what are the ways we can support that conversation where it makes even more sense for your client to actually move forward with the coverage? If your client's incorporated or they have a company, If they're the owner, payer, and beneficiary, if their company becomes the owner, payer, and beneficiary of the policy, guess what? The premiums are deductible to the business. The benefits, when they are received back, technically, they're taxable. But guess what happens when the benefits show up into the business? Your business owner is going to take all that money and use it for the expenses. So really, even if it's supposed to be technically taxable, when it comes back, it ends up being a wash, right? Because the benefit comes in and then it right away goes out to pay for the costs. So if you want to know a little bit more about how this works, we actually have tax publications on our advisor portal that talk about what the impact is of overhead disability insurance. And that's what we're talking about right now. So getting your clients to actually move forward, because after all, you've asked all those questions, you've maybe already sent them the questionnaire. I always say we need to lead our clients when it comes to enrolling in the program or taking out and completing that application. So here are a couple of conversation pieces for you to use, questions to ask to get them to that next stage. Simply saying, every day that your business is in operation, there are inherent fixed costs, whether or not you're having a successful and productive day. You have worked hard and sacrificed to build your business into the successful entity it is today. Why jeopardize what you have built? Why not protect it? You've protected your other assets like your car and your home. So again, leading them forward to take actions. Why now? Because really, we know this on the call, the business owners are the business. It's really them. And making sure that their complete need is absolutely addressed with lifestyle protection. We've been talking about income protection throughout the earlier part of our disability schools, making sure you ask them the right questions, defining, do you need a plan just for your business and a plan for your lifestyle, and separating the two because they don't work the same way. One is going to make more sense over the others. And another way to ask that is what bills come to the house versus those that come to the business. Again, really simple way to help them identify what should be income protection plan, ProGuard or Venture, and what should be expense comp, business overhead expense. So now we're going to end it off with buy-sell disability insurance. And buy-sell disability insurance, if anyone on this call has actually sold buy-sell life insurance, you've done a couple of things to be able to put that buy-sell life insurance in place. Well, guess what? You can do very much the same things to open up the opportunity for buy-sell disability insurance. So highlight the shareholders agreement. You've probably seen it. Talk about that again. You've talked about the impact of a death of a shareholder. If you haven't, by the way, here's some sales tips for you on buy-sell life insurance. For buy-sell life, you explain how the proceeds come into the business, and come out. You install the life insurance funding. Many of you have probably already done this with your business owners. But here is the question to identify the opportunity for buy-sell disability insurance. Simply asking, are there other clauses within that shareholder agreement that your client needs to be aware of, right? Are there other clauses? And I will say to you, they got that shareholder agreement drawn up by a lawyer and they paid that lawyer. There is definitely a clause around illness and disability. So if all of you are thinking, I don't know if I want to even open up buy-sell disability insurance, it sounds complicated. Well, you've heard me talk about it for so long, that risk calculator. If you've first time in our DI school, check out what's your risk, insureright.ca, and take a look at what the probability of a risk is for your client Whether there are partners in the business or whether it's on its own, look at the risk for disability and illness. And in this situation, we have 40-year-olds, man and a woman who both don't smoke. They could be partners in their business, and disability before the age of 65 is 37% chance, illness 39% chance. But that life insurance buy-sell that's in place, very good, it's in place, only 10% chance of that happening before the age of 65. So really important to address that clause and to ask how is it funded in the event of an illness or disability. And then think about that stat I talked about earlier. That hasn't changed, right? If your business owner can't come back to work for 90 days or more, if they happen to be in their 40s, they're going to be gone for 3 years. Just a little over 3. If they're in their 30s, they're going to be gone for 2.5 years. So think about if they're gone for that period of time from their business, absolutely, their business is significantly impacted. They might not have a business to come back to. So this is my encouragement to all of you to really identify and make a decision to have a discussion around making sure there's protection for buy-sell for disability and illness. Often, and I would say, by the way, often, like 90% of the time, the shareholder agreement isn't funded for disability. And most business owners aren't looking to their retained earnings to fund it for disability either. So asking them, what does it say around illness or disability? What's the definition on that agreement? What's the actual definition of disability? And interestingly, making sure their shareholder agreement is signed. I know some of you are thinking, why would she say that? Because lo and behold, we've identified over the years where advisors have asked for a copy of the shareholder agreement, and it was at that point that the client figured out, oh my God, it's not signed. And then lastly, which is your golden opportunity, is it funded? So a couple of things to help you with positioning is disability policies. Really, when you're introducing buy-sell DI, letting your business owner know they're classified as accident or sickness insurance under provincial insurance legislation. If the policy isn't a part of a life insurance contract, because it is a standalone plan, you need to look at the structure of the plan to determine how it's going to be taxed, right? So who's the owner of the plan, the payer of the premiums, the payee of the benefits, and any other special insurance features. A note for all of you, there is no capital dividend account credit, no CDA, okay? So the disability insurance is used to really fund the buyout for that shareholder. It can be provided as a lump sum or a stream of payments. Look at the shareholder agreement because usually it says it's paid out over 5 years, so that's a lump sum makes sense. It can be owned directly by the shareholders or the corporation, right? So you can do a cross purchase with a shareholder, and if it's the corporation that owns it, then it's a share redemption. It's really our issue ages, clients between the ages of 18 to 55, minimum occupation class is a 2A or higher. And again, there's 3 choices for the funding. Either it's a lump sum payout, only DI policy that pays out as a lump sum. There can be a payout for 60 months or 5 years. So monthly benefit each month for 5 years. Look at that second option and the shareholder agreement because that usually aligns. Or it can be a combination of a lump sum and monthly benefits. So business owners are always going to be attracted to the lump sum. That's great. You can certainly put that plan in place, but it's usually going to line up with their shareholder agreement. So when they receive the money, they're going to have to pay it out. Elimination period, 365 or 730 days. Very long, a year or 2 years. Why? Because this plan was designed to fund a shareholder agreement. Shareholder agreement is 365 or 730 days. Own occupation, again, a built-in definition for 4A and 3A occupation classes. If they no longer need that buy-sell, there's a conversion provision, where they can convert it to an income protection plan for a set amount of benefit. It's $2,500 if they're a 4A or 3A. There's also a transfer of insurability option. Maybe they're going to go from one company to another company. Can they transfer that buy-sell policy? Absolutely. And you can also put in a future income option rider. So maybe the valuation of the business is what it is today, but it's planning to grow. So put that rider on. So very quickly on taxation, the premiums paid directly by the shareholder, it's a non-deductible expense and the proceeds are received tax-free. The sale, obviously, of the shares for the disabled shareholder is going to be taxable. And they can use, because this is the crisscross, they're able to use their capital gains exemption. The disabled shareholder, they may be able to claim a reserve for the proceeds over 5 years. So some clients think that's probably a little bit more attractive, where that buy-sell DI provides a stream of payments versus a lump sum. And then what will happen with the remaining shareholder is they acquire all of the shares, they become 100% owner with a full cost base. So here is what it can look like. For corporation owns the insurance, right? You have Stephen and Joe, 50-50 shareholders. Here's what it looks like. If Stephen has to exit because of his disability, so now the insurance pays out into their company and Joe uses that money to buy out Stephen's shares and Joe becomes 100% shareholder. I know we're very close to time. So here are a couple of things around the tax treatment. The premiums are paid directly by the corporation. They're not a deductible expense, but the proceeds are received tax-free. And again, taxable dividend to the disabled shareholder and remaining shareholder, no increase in the ACB. So a couple of things to consider is taxation, cost of disability buyout, length of elimination period, line it up with the shareholder agreement, payment of proceeds, deciding what is most appropriate, and then obviously it's full underwriting, and so we're looking at insurability. So take a look at your triggers on that agreement. Is it mandatory or optional? Check out the definitions, and really your golden opportunity is it funded or not? And we're going to end it with, if you can't go to work, how are you going to keep the lights on for business overhead expense? And if you have a shareholder agreement for buy-sell, is it funded? And this will open the door to many other opportunities for you. All right, so lots of different things we covered and kind of ran through that last slide. Here is the second half of your code. In respect for your time, we're at the full hour. So I'm going to leave it up here for a bit and take this down. And I hope you found some ideas, and my apologies for running through those last two slides there. My apologies for that, but hopefully you were able to take out a few ideas for business overhead expense, buy-sell disability insurance, some scripting, good open-ended questions, thoughtful questions, and tactical things that you can use for your upcoming meetings. And I'd love to earn your business here at Manulife. If you still haven't taken a look at us for any of your business overhead expense cases or your buy-sell disability insurance cases, we'd love to work with you on those cases. Please feel free to connect with your Manulife insurance sales contact. And if you're not sure who that is, you can certainly ask me. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to go on mute. I'm going to leave it here. And then I'll move on to the instructions to put the codes together if this is your first time in our DI school. Thank you for being here this morning.